the story is Lot, who was the person that Jehovah saved when Jehovah destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. The only person that the Jehovah saved was Lot and his 2 daughters. And Lot was the person who offered up his virgin daughters to be raped by the men that were knocking on his door, Genesis 19:4-8. And then Genesis 19:30-36, he impregnated both of his daughters. Okay? So that's pretty much the opposite of moral. That's the opposite of morality. And it sounds a lot like, these myths sound a lot like the ancient Egyptian myths. They're just filled with all kinds of really probably some of the most despicable behaviors that are even possible. So it's not anything new, but people should be aware of what the Bible's actually talking about, at least. You know what I'm saying? Genesis 22, after Jehovah gives Abraham his only child by Sarah, he tells him to go out and bind him up and burn him as a sacrifice. Of course, then afterward he says, I was just testing you. I really didn't want you to do that. But still, not very nice. And again, Jehovah is not a him, it's a them. I have to keep reminding myself. Because I need to stick with that. I need to stick with what the texts actually say. Jehovah is plural. We have to remember that. It's a them, not a him. Genesis 24:34-38 explains how Abraham made his son Isaac marry his second cousin. In Genesis 25:21, Isaac's wife/cousin was barren, so Jehovah impregnated her, or in vitro fertilization or whatever, with Jacob and Esau, twins. Then in chapter 27, Jacob tricked his brother Esau and lied to his dying father in order to steal his twin brother's birthright. In chapter 28, verse 17 of Genesis, Jacob awoke in the house of Jehovah and described it as dreadful. In Genesis 29:30, Jacob then married his first cousin Sarah, but she was also barren. So he slept with her sister Leah, and Leah had 6 sons and 1 daughter. He slept with her servant, Sarah's servant, and had 2 sons by her, and slept with Leah's servant and had 2 sons from her. Then in Genesis 31:26, Jacob robbed his uncle/father-in-law and skipped town with the man's 2 daughters. Then in Genesis 34, a Canaanite wanted to marry Jacob's daughter. And it says that, the Canaanite and Jacob's daughter hooked up. Okay, basically. It doesn't say that the Canaanite raped her. It just says that they hooked up. It says that about Isaac, and it says that about Abraham, and it says that about everybody else. But for some people, they just assume that it's okay what Jacob's sons did to him. It says that this person loved her and wanted to marry her, and so this person went to her brothers, and her brothers tricked him and all of his friends into cutting off parts of their genitals. And then after they did it, They murdered all of them because he was in love with their sister and wanted to marry her. Genesis 37:28 says that Jacob's sons then sold their youngest brother into slavery. Genesis 38:6-26 might be one of the worst things of all, but I'm not sure because they're all so bad that I don't know which one of these things is worse. But in Genesis 38:6-26, Jehovah kills Jacob's grandson, Judah's child. Then the woman who was married to that man then married his brother, and Jehovah killed him too. So then this widow dressed up as a prostitute, and Judah, her father-in-law, paid her. You know what I'm saying? Then after she dressed up like a prostitute and he paid her for it, then he called for her to be burnt. And then after that said, oh, well, she's actually a better person than I am. Again, I don't know how I don't know what's worse than these stories. They're so bad. Exodus 4:2-4. Jehovah turned Moses' rod into a serpent. Okay. Exodus 30:11-6, Jehovah demanded money from the Israelites as atonement for their souls. I don't know about you, but that reminds me of a Star Trek episode I saw one time of the Ferengi taking over this planet and demanding that they all pay them, and they were really rich, and I don't know. That's what that reminds me of. That's ridiculous. Exodus 32:27 says, Jehovah made the Jews kill their friends and family. Exodus 34:14 says, Jehovah, whose name is jealous anger, this word in Hebrew means jealous anger, is a jealous El. The word in Hebrew is El, and one of the definitions is false God. It's basically saying Jehovah is a jealous, angry, false God, right there in Exodus 34:14. Okay, now here's where we get to Jesus. And this is what just brings it home for me. Jehovah had promised to make Abraham's descendants kings if they cut off parts of their genitals as a token of the covenant. That's Genesis 17. Moses made a covenant with Jehovah, and he said, the earth is mine in Exodus 19. Jehovah said, the earth is mine. Well, who does the earth belong to? We know that the prince of this world, John 12:31, the prince of this world shall be cast out. John 16:11, the prince of this world is judged. The earth is mine. Jehovah said the earth is mine because Jehovah took over, stole the earth from the humans who the Elohim had ordained on this planet to be rulers of this planet. But Jehovah stole it from them, probably because they had more advanced technology, no question. 2 Corinthians 4:4, the God who deceives the minds of those who don't believe. So that's who the existing one is, the God who rules the earth, who has ruled the earth for the past 6,000 years. And I'll get to that in a minute, because it actually tells us 6,000 years. But so we can see that this covenant is, with Jehovah, is kind of disgusting. I mean, the foreskin that they cut off of their babies is a token. Moses sprinkled the blood on the blood of dead animals on these people to seal their covenant with Jehovah. That's Exodus 24. But here's where it gets into the connection between Jehovah and the devil directly. Moses was with Jehovah 40 days and 40 nights. That's Exodus 24:18. In Matthew 4:1-11, it describes Jesus while he was in the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights, and the devil offered him all the kingdoms of the world, but Jesus refused him and called him Satanas, an adversary. So remember, Jehovah had promised Abraham that his descendants would be kings. And Moses was with Jehovah for 40 days and 40 nights when the Israelites were in the wilderness. And here in Matthew 4, Jesus is in the wilderness 40 days and 40 nights. And this person comes to him and says, I'll give you all the kingdoms of the world. And he says, get behind me, Satan. So that sounds like confirmation to me that Jehovah is Satanas. One and the same. In Matthew 1:21, it says that Jesus was born into the Jews' lineage to save them from their sins. So I'll actually go and I'll show you this one. I wanted to show you all these scriptures, but there's not enough time. I mean, as you can see, there's just... it's already taking a lot of time to go through this, but this is Matthew 1. The book of the generation of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. So Jesus was born into this lineage, into the lineage of the Jews, the Israelites. Why? Why was he born into that lineage? To save his people from their sins. Matthew 1:21, and she shall bring forth a son, and call his name Jesus, for he shall save his people from their sins. He incarnated into the Jewish lineage to save them from the deceiver. That's what Jesus was doing. Revelation 2:9, I know the blasphemy of them which say they are the Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Okay, because of all the deception that the deceiver has done, how do we know who is who? Does it have something to do with what religion you are? No, it doesn't. That's not what Jesus said. Does it have something to do with what word you use to call God? No, that's not what Jesus said. How do you know who is who? Jesus answered, Matthew 7:16, you will know them by what they produce. People don't pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles, do they? This is the GWT translation. The King James Version says, you will know them by their fruits. So this is not about religion. This is simply about the facts. This is about what these words in our Bible actually mean. And what it might actually mean for us, what it really means. So let me go into what it says about how long Jehovah or the Nephilim are going to be on planet Earth. Let me start part 4.